create a digital version of Chad Wise's inspired artwork, what you need to make sure is as you're moving through each of these steps that you are screenshotting as you go, and you want to evidence that in your book, whether it's be digital or it be physical. Now, you do not have to do it for every single one. So you can see here, I have 4 different examples that I have been inspired by this artist. However, I've only evidenced one because it is exactly the same process that I go through, so I don't need to do it for everyone. So I am going to go into Photoshop. First thing you're going to need to do is open up a new A4 document, and to do that you'll go to File, New, and again if you find that it doesn't come up in your recents, the A4 size, you can go to Print and you'll be able to find it there. So you'll click Create, but I already have one here. You'll also need to download the Brushes Photoshop file that I have saved in the SharePoint, or the OneDrive rather, and again you'll find a link to that in your post section on Teams. You'll also need the image that you want, so you're just going to click and drag that into your canvas. First thing I'm going to do is resize my image so I don't have a white border around. Again, once I'm happy with it, to seal the action, you need to hit enter, otherwise you're not able to move on to any next steps. You can hit enter, or you can click the little tick box at the top, and that seals that action for you. Now, typically, if you were trying to cut or make any changes to that layer, as it is a smart layer, we can see here, whenever you see the layer image with a little box, it's typically a smart layer, so I can't cut or fill anything on top of that layer. What I can do is work kind of on top of that. So I'm going to change this to black and white. I want my paint elements to be in colour. So you're going to go to the adjustments box. If you cannot find that in your, or just kind of above your layers, you'll need to go to Window at the top, and then you'll need to go down to Adjustments, and it will appear. So I'm going to change it to black and white first of all, which you will find on this middle row, and it is the little half grey, half white box. Automatically changes it to black and white. You can play around with these sliders, and obviously any kind of red tones in your image. For example, obviously I've got red in her lips here. If I drag it down, they're going to go darker. Same if I go lighter, it's going to pick up a little bit more of the highlights. What I like to do is play around with the brightness, contrast, the curves, and then even the exposure. Again, it's not necessary that you do all of these. Curves is probably my favourite one to go with. It really emphasises the highlights, and then you can get a little bit more shadows. I want some more definition just in our cheekbones here. So with this line here, obviously it's completely straight, I want to give it a little bit of an S curve. Again, it's going to be relatively subtle, so I'm not pulling it down too much. I'm creating a very, very subtle S, little curve here, and then I can move on to add in my brushes. So the Brushes Photoshop file is in the Documents folder as well, which I have the link to. You can double click and open that, and then what you can see here is 19 different types of brushes. Totally up to you what you want to start with. I am going to go with this one here. Once I have clicked on it, I'm going to either select all, or you can do Command A. I can do Edit Copy, Command C, and then I need to go back into my own image, and then that's when I'm going to edit and paste, or Command V, and it should appear like so. Again, if you find that you cannot see the box around any of your images, just make sure that when you've selected the Move tool, that you have ticked Show Transform Controls, so it allows you to change the width, and you can move it around that way. Now, at the minute, whenever I pull on the corner, it keeps pretty much everything in proportion, so it stays, the ratio between the width and the height kind of stays the same. However, if I want to change that in any way, I just need to hold the Shift key, and I can move that a little bit more. So if I want it a tiny bit square, so perhaps if I wanted it over one eye, I just hold the Shift key down and I can manoeuvre it that way. So I've positioned it how I want it. Again, to finish that action, like what you see here, either the tick or hit enter, and it finishes that action for you. So I want to have it in a different colour. I'm going to go for a turquoise colour here. Again, to find that's just the boxes at the bottom. I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool. Now, if you cannot see it, it might appear as this. So it's halfway down your toolbar. It looks like a little box that goes from dark to light. If you click and hold that down, it will go to the paint bucket tool. For some people you can't click and hold it down, which is where you would then need to go to the little dots, and typically it appears there. So I have the colour I want, and I am just going to fill that in. Once I'm happy with that, what I might want to do is duplicate it. So rather than having to select all and copy, I can literally just drag my layer down to the little plus sign at the bottom corner, and I will have 2 of these layers. I might then want to either change the colour completely, or here I might want to make it a different kind of tone. So I want it to be a monochromatic palette, but I want to have a little bit more of a gradient to it. Again, I might then add a third. And what's really good about this version of Photoshop, it actually tells you when your kind of layers are exactly the same distance apart. So if you want it completely uniform, it kind of tells you that for you. So that is one really nice feature. Again, I'm just going to change the colour on this one. My paint bucket tool again. And that is me. So I'm quite happy with how it looks for the time being. I am looking to have a border around my image, like what you can see here. Again, you can decide whether you want it to be a triangle, if you want it rectangle, if you want it an ellipse, hexagon, custom shape, whatever it may be. Again, it's not entirely necessary. I am going to go to my shape tool, but first of all I want to choose the colour. Obviously it can be a completely different colour, however I want it to be this darkest colour. At the minute, if I was to click on that, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to find the exact same colour. So the way in which you can do that is if you go to your toolbar, and it is kind of a quarter of the way down, you'll see a little eyedropper tool. Wherever you click on, it picks up that colour and then it appears in this little box here. And then I am just going to go to shape, drag it to the rough kind of size and position that I want. Again, I can move this around later on, and it should fill that box in entirely. Obviously we don't want it filled, we are just looking for the border. So you're going to go up to the top here, it says fill, no colour or no fill. And at the minute your border's actually black. It's highlighted in blue because we've selected it, but it's actually black at the minute. We want to make it a little bit wider as well. So at the top where it says 1px, that means it's 1 pixel wide, so it's very, very thin. If I click the little down bar next to it, I can see the little slider, and it's going to allow me to change the thickness of this frame here. Once I'm happy with how kind of wide it is, I'm then going to go to my paint bucket tool. What you will see is a little circle with a cross through it, so as if it's not, I'm not able to do that command. If I click on that layer, what should come up is this little dialog box here that says we have to rasterize the shape. You're going to click OK. Then you're going to try and fill it again. So you can see it's went from the circle with a line through it to the paint bucket. I click on that and it changes my border for me. So again, you can pick and choose the colour. If I want it to be something completely different, I can do that. Click and fill. So again, it's entirely up to you what colour combinations you are looking to do. And again, you do not have to have this border. If we're looking at Chad Wise, we can see that he doesn't have any of the borders. Again, think about position. Is it going to be completely uniform? Could it be the paintbrushes that you're using? Might it be the shape tool itself, where you are perhaps just layering up lots and lots of different boxes? Think about the position of your kind of swatches or boxes, triangles, whatever you may have. What area or what feature is it that you're kind of trying to not only remove, but you're drawing attention to? So for example, this eye here, that's typically where your eye would go, is this kind of concentration of colour. Again, I cannot stress enough that as you're moving through these steps, make sure that you are screen grabbing as you go. Doesn't need to be every single step, but you can see here that I have around 5. I would say no more than 5 to 6 is really necessary. Anything more than that is a little bit overkill. But again, feel free to have play around with colour, with the different brush types, and you should end up with an image like so.